Well, good morning or good afternoon once again, and we'll get started now. We have a quorum, I believe. We have an interesting group today. We have some folks in the US and also a few folks from the UK listening in, so welcome to all. And we're going to get started. Again, this is Dave Zwicker, and I'm with MSP Excellence, and I'm going to take us through a presentation that it's part of a cloud solutions webinar series that MSP Excellence has put together in combination with Google. And I'm going to describe for you all a little bit about our partnership with Google. But the goal of this particular installment is to talk about some strategies that we have developed for using Google Apps to power a high performance recurring revenue business. And those strategies are taken from a cloud solutions provider business building program that MSP Excellence has developed in combination with Google for its Google Apps reseller community. And so I'll walk through the slides. Feel free to ask a question using the question box on your control panel, and I'll try to take an occasional look at those and see if there's a question that should be addressed during the webinar. Or I'll also take a look at the end and take some questions at the end. So at your pleasure. Very briefly, MSP Excellence is a consultancy that about a year ago began to work with Google on the notion of how to provide a resource to Google Apps resellers to increase the value of their business by using Google Apps as the cornerstone for functionality for customers and for building additional sources of revenue around Google Apps as part of their business model. And so we went through some rather extensive research, interviewing just a large number of Google Apps resellers, probably 50, 60, 70 of them, did some quantitative and qualitative analysis of their needs. And we created a program that went through a beta test process that was launched on April 3rd of this year, called the Cloud Solutions Provider Program for Google Apps Resellers. And so that program is designed for resellers to build a cloud solutions business using Google Apps. So with that brief introduction, let me start into the presentation. And I'm going to set the stage by talking about a little bit of market research data. I don't want to bore us with market research data. We've all been overwhelmed by it, I'm sure. I think we all realize the cloud is coming, and it's going to drive a lot of business in a lot of market segments. But there's a couple of key insights that I think these particular facts are worthy of highlighting. And probably right off the bat, you can recognize, these are not custom commissioned surveys done by vendors to make a point about their products. These are bellwether market research companies projecting big numbers and high growth rates. IDC, Forrester, McKinsey, and Gartner. In particular, IDC forecasting a 27% annual growth rate over the next several years, and that cloud services will grow at 5 times the rate of traditional IT spending. I think those are a couple of amazing facts when you step back and think about them. Forrester's projecting global cloud computing will rise to a $240 billion market by 2020. And in particular, these last two bullets are very interesting to me. And that is that the SMB space, which is the target segment, not just for the Google Apps reseller, but for VARs and managed service providers, as a channel, as a community, focusing on bringing IT services to the small and mid-sized business and small enterprise versus the large enterprise, which of course has their own in-house resource. That those SMBs are twice as likely to use the cloud right now versus the enterprise, and that Gartner's predicting SMB revenue will account for $150 billion by next year. So I think those are a couple of amazing facts that to me it suggests cloud spending is no longer a hype, it's no longer a future, that the time is now to bring services to market and to monetize a cloud solutions provider business model using Google Apps and a variety of other apps and services. So, and what we found in other research is the reason why SMBs are adopting the cloud so aggressively is they can get an immediate 25 to 50% cost savings over what their IT services are costing them today. And, a quick fact, at MSP Excellence, my partner and I, Todd Hussey and I, we do a lot of work in the MSP community. We know MSP price points and buying trends, and the nature of the services and service mix offered to their customers. And MSPs are traditionally and routinely getting a minimum of $50 per user per month up to $150 per user per month, US dollars, for managed services that can run the gamut from very basic and simple, monitoring and help desk to multiple business applications and premium services like virtual CIO and virtual CTO services to help their customers get the most out of technology in this age of mobilization and bring your own devices and a need for security at every level in the organization. So $50 to $150 per user per month is a lot of revenue, and yet it's been a much more efficient model for SMBs than trying to do their own IT. So we believe that by reducing that IT cost, that the cloud and cloud solutions providers can take market share away dramatically from the MSP community and use that as a leverage point to grow their presence in the cloud market and take a share of some of these fantastic revenues. Secondly, SMBs are eager to level the playing field with large companies. And so with the cloud, they can have access to world-class online payroll, HR, accounting, conferencing, customer relationship management, online backup, disaster recovery. All those big enterprise capabilities can be theirs via the cloud. It raises the question, who sorts it out and brings it to them and manages those services and integrates them as a single service that has a single budgetary line item for them to pay against. And if they can achieve all of that for less money than going with an MSP, there's the opportunity for the cloud solutions provider. And that's why this market research is so telling for us. So let's take that research and also have just a little bit of a historical perspective about what we at MSP Excellence believe we're on the verge of, which is a shift in the channel to the CSP model. We've already, all of us, seen the shift from the VAR model to the MSP model. And we call this, these three evolutionary phases, IT 1.0 and IT 2.0 and 3.0 respectively, where 1.0 was dominated by the VAR model, where VARs would sell technology to customers and there would be in-house staff to take care of that technology, or they would reactively pay the VAR on a break-fix model to take care of things for them. And that model shifted to the MSP model. Why? Because the MSP model was much more efficient. The heavy CapEx to buy heavy desktops and servers was still in the picture, but the OpEx side of the equation was dramatically reduced, and the nature of IT support became proactive because of something called the Remote Monitoring and Management Platform. These RMM platforms allowed MSPs to centrally monitor and proactively understand when desktops and servers needed to be repaired, supported, optimized, corrected in some fashion. And so they would provide those services on a fixed, either fixed fee per device per month or fixed fee per user per month. And that has given rise to the $50 to $150 per user price points that I was talking about earlier. Now enter the cloud, and all of that IT capability can be delivered via cloud services. And now the opportunity is to dramatically reduce the OpEx side of the equation. So the CapEx goes down even more because servers go away and desktops become lighter. They become media tablets or even bring your own devices. And the OpEx can be less as well because the licensing for SaaS applications and for hosted services and the efficiency of taking care of them can allow the CSP to drop the price versus the MSP. And this is where we think there's an enormous opportunity for Google Apps resellers is to follow the MSP model of monthly recurring revenue, to do so at a lower rate, and to deliver the same services, even greater services, more efficiently than remotely monitoring and managing premise-based systems. And so for that reason, we believe the CSP model is going to dominate the future of IT. So here are the takeaways from that market data and from these evolutionary channel trends. And they're simply these 3 points: that the IT services market is poised right now for a major shift away from premise-based IT and towards the cloud. And all it needs really is for somebody to take the message to the market. CSPs can take this message today to their target customers in the SMB segments for the verticals upon which they're focused, and unhook the premise and migrate them to the cloud and do this for less money and increase their own revenue potential as a cloud solutions provider and start the recurring revenue clock ticking for them. Secondly, this trend will have a major impact on the business and delivery model for VARs, MSP, integrators, and even interconnects, where interconnects are voice and or VoIP telephony VARs who want to add data to their mix. And the impact is going to be that there's going to be a consolidation. It's a game of musical chairs where everybody doesn't have a seat. It's being predicted by Forrester and Gartner that the channel will shrink by 15 to 40% as a result of the cloud shift. And so the best strategy is to embrace the opportunity to fully exploit the cloud and the trend to become a cloud solutions provider and be in front of the curve in terms of offering recurring services at a lower price than MSPs charge for taking care of on-premise technology. That's sort of a central theme for us at MSP Excellence, is to bring a strategy to the Google Apps reseller community that you've made the right choice starting with Google Apps, that you've got a terrific foundation in terms of collaboration and messaging, and now you can take that model and expand it with complementary apps and services and change the licensing and consulting billing model to one where it can create a recurring revenue stream that allows you to be more competitive than MSPs are currently doing in the SMB sector, given their desire to shift to the cloud at this aggressive rate of growth. So I just mentioned you made a great choice selecting Google Apps as the cornerstone for your collaboration and messaging and the balance of your cloud computing solution set. And as you already know, it's a terrific mix of mail, of document sharing, of collaboration and messaging services, and can be the foundation for everything else you build around it. And in fact, the intersection point for other hosted apps and services that rely on document sharing and application mobility and integration of the user experience with other hosted apps and services. And so the benefit for all of this is when you assemble your cloud solutions ecosystem, you can bring customer benefits in the form of terrific worker and organizational efficiency. And you can quantify those things with a lower cost of ownership and a higher return on investment by investing in your solution versus an on-premise alternative. And in fact, we have the TCO and ROI tools to help you make that case to the customer quantitatively. And then, of course, the reseller benefits for going down this path is you can be in the driver's seat. You can be part of the sea change to displace traditional IT services with the cloud, and at the same time build a recurring revenue business for yourself. We're going to see in a minute why recurring revenue offers such high value for a Google Apps reseller, both in terms of immediate revenue return and profitability, and maybe more importantly, long-term valuation building for your business. Because if you do want to participate in the channel consolidation by perhaps selling your business for a high price in 3 to 5 years, there's no better way to maximize valuation in an M&A scenario than having a profitable recurring revenue business up and running. Additionally, Google is always taking steps to enhance the Google Apps Suite. That's one of the reasons why we at MSP Excellence are so eager and happy to be working with them. Is this model is constantly being enhanced. In fact, it's a completely disruptive technology in the face of the traditional Microsoft experience. And so a great example of that is the recent addition of Google Drive. It's incredibly integrated with the rest of the Google Apps suite. It redefines how Google Docs operates, yet does so seamlessly with synchronization between client and cloud, incredibly easy to use and set up. The functionality is really, I think, understated. The idea that you can, on the fly, convert between Microsoft and other file formats and Google Docs that are instantly shareable, under control with other users for compatibility and collaboration is great. And then applying the search functionality that Google is famous for to retrieving information out of that online database, adds to that. So all of this being platform independent, and a great dollar value just enhances the solution and has led to people like the esteemed Gartner Group to come back and recognize that Google Apps is truly a threat to the Microsoft dominance of the premise-based IT experience for office productivity. And I'll just read a quote here. Google Apps is taking more business away from Microsoft than we expected, raising its stature as an enterprise provider. Ultimately, Microsoft may face serious threat to its Office franchise. And the reason for that is Google's call to action is extremely appealing to organizations, generally not pleased with their current experience, driving a deep and thoughtful re-examination of what to invest in and why. Primarily, the disaffected are moving to Google Apps, legitimizing that choice and helping Google to grow its base. And so, to me, that is the definition of a disruptive technology. Speaking in terms of the cloud in a general sense, but also speaking to Google's implementation of collaboration and messaging in particular. So that is why we believe strongly that this notion of starting with Google Apps as an engine and using that as a foundation, a way to build and power your own high performance business, a cloud solutions provider business. And we're careful about language because we want you to migrate from a reseller to a solutions provider. And for us at MSP Excellence, what that means is wrapping complementary apps and your own professional and managed services around the Google Apps suite to build customer solutions for the customer and recurring revenue for you. And the metaphor we like to use is taking a really high performing engine, but people don't buy engines. What they buy is vehicles. They buy cars, and they buy cars to take them places. And so that's a great analogy for starting with Google Apps as an engine and turning it into a vehicle that, on one axis provides great customer value so that you're more competitive, your customer realizes more benefit than just having collaboration and messaging, but they have so much more in terms of business apps and other hosted services that are managed by you and optimized and tailored to their workflow and actually translate to business value for your target customer. And that translates to stickiness, long-term customer relationships that you can turn into a recurring revenue stream. And also, as you wrap apps and services around Google Apps, you're growing the price that you can charge and the margin that you could command for those integrated services. And so this is what we want to share a few strategies today and describe our overall program for taking you through in blueprint fashion a way to follow this roadmap from going from engine to vehicle as you build out your Google Apps business. Google has helped start the conversation with the customer around monthly recurring revenue by instituting a monthly billing model. And so now Google Apps and the licensing and the billing for Google Apps is a monthly process as opposed to an annual billing process, and it creates better cash flow for you and the customer. It eliminates that upfront cost and really changes the sort of CapEx oriented model of paying up front in advance in a big ticket fashion into an OpEx centric model, which is something that customers really prefer. They'd rather have something that's predictable they can put in their operating budget that represents IT then periodically go find a big chunk of change, whether it's to buy hardware or buy licenses or to pay for customization of the cloud or to pay in advance for licenses. And so this OpEx centric model is very friendly and is a nice door opener to following that MSP model of charging on a per user or per device per month basis for initiating a recurring revenue stream. Of course, Google continues to offer, and you can continue to offer the annual plan if you want to. The flexible monthly plan, like the annual plan, has a 20% revenue sharing model for you based on the license revenue stream that you create. But as I said, probably the most important point of this billing change is it enables monthly recurring revenue that you can now start with licensing, but build around that other apps, services that you can charge for on a monthly basis. And that gets you into the recurring revenue world. So why are we talking so much about recurring revenue? I want to give you a chart that makes the point graphically as well as numerically about the power of recurring revenue and why it's so important to give this strong consideration as a business model going forward. What we see on the left-hand side of this chart that we put together is the annualized revenue of a one-time revenue model where you charge for licenses at the rate of $50 per user per year. And for a typical 25 user customer, that's $1,250. That's the 1 year customer value if you were to sell licenses alone based on Google Apps without adding apps and services or your own managed services around that. Of course, none of us want to do that. And so the first step that most Google Apps resellers take is they build consulting services to do deployment and one-time consulting engagements and use licensing as a springboard for those one-time revenues. And so let's say conservatively you add $100 per user to customize and install Google Apps. Now you've got $150 per user per year, and you've taken a $1,250 customer value for 25 user environment to $3,750. And that's a nice step up. And maybe you can take that $100 per user and you can expand the consulting potential and get that to $200, $300, $400, $500 per user for a consulting fee. Let's do some quick math and say 25 users times $500 a user. So you could maybe get a $12,500 engagement out of a customer if you can justify a $500 per user upfront deployment charge. And that's nice to take a 25 user environment and get $12,000 of business out of it and do that over and over. But the point is you do have to do it over and over, and each new customer requires you to go out and resell and win that big ticket sale, as opposed to packaging what you do as a recurring revenue service. And our goal is to help the Google Apps reseller to get to either a 25 user per month, $25 per user per month rate to maybe up to a $50 per user per month rate. And if you think back to what I said at the start of the presentation, MSPs are routinely getting $50 to $100 to $150 per user per month. So if you come in at these dollar rates, you will be undercutting that by a good 50%. And therein lies the value to displace market share from the highly successful MSP channel environment to the growing CSP or cloud solutions provider environment. And now look at the dollars that this creates in terms of value for you as a cloud solutions provider business. That $25 per user per month now becomes $7,500 in first year value based on 12 months at $25 per user times 25 users in a typical 25 seat customer environment. And your margins have blended up to a much higher level. You've gone from 20% for licensing only to maybe 35, 36% if you blend 40% gross margin for services with 20% margin for licenses. So more margin, higher revenue, in fact, twice the revenue of our one-time revenue value. But the most important point is that this $7,500 for each customer engagement now becomes an annual hopefully permanent recurring revenue stream because you've taken the steps to build customer loyalty and customer satisfaction by providing integrated cloud-based solutions for their IT environment. And if we can get you to piece together an IT cloud solutions portfolio that has enough value, we believe you can get to $50 per user per month. And now you can have a $15,000 annual engagement per 25 user customer and a $15,000 revenue stream per customer that goes on forever instead of one time. And at margins that are now approaching 40% because licensing is a small percentage, and recurring managed services at 40 points is a much larger percentage. So higher revenue, higher profitability, long-term recurring revenue. And the reason why this creates valuation for your business that will be much stronger 3 years down the road is, let's pretend for a second that you can acquire one 25 user customer a month. And over the course of 3 years, you can build up a customer base of 36 customers. At 36 customers at these average recurring revenue rates, you now have a $500,000 business, US dollars. That $500,000 business goes on forever as long as you retain the customer. And so without acquiring another new piece of business, you have a $500,000 business of recurring revenue at almost 40 points of gross margin. You have a recurring revenue machine that you can continuously build on, continuously increase value. And if you were to go away as the principal, that recurring revenue business would live on as long as it's operationally sound. And it makes it extremely saleable at a much higher value than a consulting business that's overly dependent on you and is overly dependent on repeating your run rate for winning new project business month after month after month. So that's the power of recurring revenue that we want to help you to realize. And of course, it begs the big question of how do you move into this realm of $25 per user per month to $50 per user per month? And the answer to that is to pick the right applications. And of course, the Google Marketplace has an array of choices for you to pick from. But the question is, which ones? Which ones will create value for your customers and profitability for you? So we're going to start, answering that question by first getting agreement on the definition of what is a cloud solution. And a cloud solution is what it's not about technology. It's not any one app or service. It's not about features and functions. It's no single standalone technology. Instead, it's an integration of technologies that combines to create a solution that is specific to an industry or even specific to a customer or customer set. And this starts with you knowing how to target the right customer, understanding what their business problems are, and translating a portfolio of cloud technologies into a business problem where you've learned how to solve those problems because you've had the customer interviews that have revealed the business needs, and you've discovered what are the pain points, and you know how to solve those with the suite of technologies that you've integrated together. So now you represent something very valuable to your potential customer. You've gone and selected the technologies, built the best-in-class portfolio of services that's right for them and their technology and their market sector, and you know how to implement it, take care of it, optimize it, and support it on their behalf. That is a must-have for business owners. That is a great story not to take to the person who owns IT in any size company, but to the owner of the business or the leading executives who take care of the operational efficiency and profitability of that business. And that's where we want you to go, is to talk business solutions and business value based on your cloud ecosystem. And so how do you create this cloud ecosystem? Well, in our CSP program that we've developed with Google, we have actually developed a framework for you to create your own cloud solutions ecosystem. It's based on 6 broad categories that map to the major trends of cloud migration that are in play today in the marketplace. And those 6 solution suites, as we call them, are collaboration and messaging, Obviously, most of that is Google Apps for Business, but there's additional ways to increase that collaboration and messaging story and solution suite. Complemented by mobility solutions, other hosted business applications, virtual infrastructure to replace what's on premise, and then to provide security and business continuity for those resources, for those databases, and for those apps, with layers of user identity management and access rights and endpoint security and information security capabilities and backup and disaster recovery and business continuity schemes that are all available in the Google Marketplace today. And it turns the fear about the cloud into a selling benefit for you as the trusted advisor to bring to that future customer. And what you're wrapping around all of that is a concept we really like calling total service management. You are now the single source to your customer for sourcing these cloud-based solutions, for making sure that they're operationally doing their job and supporting the customer, and really tailoring them from a automation and workflow perspective to make their business work as efficiently as possible. So what we have is a way for you to take this solution suite framework and go into the Google Marketplace and select the apps that can flesh out this ecosystem as it relates to your business and your target market segment. And we help you through that selection process by really using a series of criteria that we've developed for how you select apps from the marketplace that are what we call reseller friendly. So we've got the 10 most important criteria for you to apply to the marketplace. And they are: how integrated is this complementary app and service with Google Apps? You don't want to simply be a reseller or broker or superstore of a bunch of apps. You want to know that that CRM package or that accounting package or that project management or workflow package is integrated with Google Apps from a messaging and collaboration perspective, and from a user experience and security and mobility perspective. And so you want to make sure the solution is customizable by you, that it has the right price points in the market that are both competitive but will also result in a meaningful recurring revenue stream, that it has the right end user market focus, that your potential ISV partner for your ecosystem is an established player and has brand recognition. So you can really promote a best-in-class assortment of technologies for your customer set. It's very important that your ISV partner has commitment to the channel and that you're not competing with an ISV who maybe thinks of the channel as an afterthought or maybe a referral source for direct business, but actually has a bona fide channel program and revenue sharing model that represents their commitment to the channel. And then you want to be able to quantify that, the potential of what revenue you can enable from that partnership, and make sure it has the right feature function fit for what you want to bring to market, and a technology fit that you can actually customize, operate, support this app as part of your ecosystem, and that you're prepared to deliver it in a way that your customers expect it to be delivered. So we take you through how to apply these criteria as you look into the marketplace, select apps for your ecosystem, and then build them into your model. And so continuing on with that model, selecting the apps is one thing, but now you really need a roadmap for what's the right order to build out your ecosystem and then to price and package them for high margin services that can be presented to your customer as solutions. And so we've developed something we call a technology roadmap that takes you through stages of evolution. You don't want to start off building your ecosystem and go to the most advanced and exotic and complicated services. Maybe the right thing for you is to not start with a voice over IP solution that's integrated with a CRM, even though there are Google Apps resellers who offer that, because there's so many more other table stakes solutions that you want to put in place first and build upon as a foundation. So Google Apps obviously is service number one, but then some sort of identity management and access control scheme for mobile devices is right behind that, and some sort of backup and disaster recovery scheme is right behind that. And so we take you through the progression of how to build out your ecosystem, your solution suites in the right order. And as you add them in, then to make the right choices for what are the appropriate deployment services that should accompany those individual hosted apps and services in the areas of configuration, integration, customization, data migration, optimizing the app or the infrastructure they're going to run on, and how you provide training. Those are all chargeable one-time deployment services that will help you pick the right way to package and associate them with services to build up your one-time revenue. And I want to underscore, we're not saying abandon one-time revenue as you progress towards recurring revenue. In fact, there's an argument that says in the early stages for cash flow reasons, you continue to optimize one-time revenue until you build up enough of a cash flow and customer base that you can shift to a recurring revenue model, where you de-emphasize one-time revenue to competitively attract more customers to build up recurring revenue, where recurring revenues for these various services can be drawn from not just help desk support and user administration, but virtual resource management, on-premise device management. We have a technology partner in our ecosystem today as part of our program that is an entity called a master MSP. And what a master MSP does is it's a service partner for you as a Google Apps reseller to let you easily get into on-premise device management. That's if your customer has existing desktops and workstations. You don't want to go to a big platform provider like Kaseya or Enable or Level Platforms and learn about that technology and buy licenses and become an MSP. You can resell MSP services, play a role in the delivery of those MSP services, and get a recurring revenue share of those MSP services while you're migrating the customer fully to the cloud. That's all part of your displacement strategy, is to not just take a piece of the pie, but to take the whole pie. And so device management is one element of managed services that you can associate with the service elements in your cloud solutions portfolio. As are vendor management, and a very popular and premium service is the right way to package virtual CIO services. SMBs and mid-sized companies are very hungry for help in sorting through the myriad of choices, how they get the most out of the latest generation of smartphones, media tablets, Chromebooks, and other mobile and thin client devices to control the user experience, the security of those devices, and the functionality they offer so that every business can be mobilized. That's one of the fundamental benefits of the cloud. It's not just virtualizing technology from the data center to the cloud to lower expenses. It's creating more business agility and speed of transaction processing with customers by letting technology go to the customer site or home on weekends and evenings with employees to get the most value out of a cloud solution set. So all of this is a framework that you can methodically march through in blueprint fashion to build out your cloud solutions provider business, starting from the beginning of being a Google Apps reseller and gradually, step by step and in the right order, piecing together those cloud solutions and chargeable services associated with them so that you can win the cloud solutions provider game. And so I'll give a brief description of the program and how it is put together, and how we help you implement some of these strategies that I've just shared with you a little bit. There's two dimensions to our cloud solutions provider program for Google Apps resellers. One side is a series of blueprints. The blueprints are ready to use, sort of just add water tools for you to follow as you build out a CSP business from the very beginning to scaling up a very efficient and high growth business model that derives recurring revenue and builds valuation. And the way the blueprints are organized is in a life cycle model, meaning you start with first things first. There's a go-to-market blueprint where you do modeling of pricing and margin and target customer, and begin to look at what does your portfolio look like. And then it goes to the second blueprint, which is a very comprehensive modeling tool for setting prices and and predicting the margin performance for the blend of services that you're going to take to market. What you want to do in that step is feel totally comfortable and confident that you've got pricing right so that you can take that to market on a broad scale and have a repetitive model where in the third blueprint, we give you the sales enablement tools for you or your salespeople to rapidly do customer quotes based on that pricing, and make sure that pricing is competitive, but at the same time going to deliver maximum revenue and profitability to you. And then we put that pricing through other tools in that third sales process blueprint for doing TCO and ROI analysis, for providing a professional presentation and lead generation tools such as webinars. And then in the fourth blueprint, how do you do performance management of all that? And there are key metrics that you want to be able to manage as part of a sales process so that you know you are on the right track to building the right recurring revenue business. So all of those four blueprints, which are very comprehensive, are great in and of themselves, but they're just tools. And so to make the tools meaningful and useful, the second dimension of our program is called a virtual peer group. And a virtual peer group is a coming together of all the Google Apps resellers in our program so they can work together and share ideas and talk about what works and what doesn't work, and really add to a body of knowledge where it isn't just MSP Excellence helping you as a business coach and the tool set and the blueprints helping you get from A to B. It's the interaction with your peers that really makes this a rich experience. And so we not only meet monthly, as it says in the first bullet, we actually meet every week at noon. And we have an interactive session where we go through a best practice discussion of how to use something in the blueprints, or we have a guest speaker, or we have one of the resellers themselves take the stage and talk about their experiences, or we bring in key vendors to talk to us about their solutions so we can evaluate them as part of the cloud ecosystem that we're all building individually for our own CSP business. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about that cloud solutions provider program, we have a couple of ways that you can do that. And they're both no cost and no obligation. So we invite you to come and conduct your own business assessment. We've created a pretty comprehensive checklist that covers all of the key elements for planning and managing a successful CSP business. And it's on the link you see up on the screen. It's right at our website, mspexcellence.com/checklist.aspx. And there you can go through 7 categories, it's 40 questions, and you can rate your own readiness as a CSP. And it covers everything from target market analysis to pricing and packaging to sales enablement to performance management. And you can get a sense of where you have the bases covered and where you might not have the bases fully covered. The second way you can learn some more is we've initiated, just this week, a very comprehensive market research initiative where we're doing both quantitative and qualitative analysis of what successful CSPs are doing to specifically offer services and at what price points. And so we'd invite you to take a survey that we've set up. That's the quantitative side of this research. And that survey is going to allow you to input and then compare your answers to what are you charging for one-time services, what are you charging for recurring services, which services, what technologies are in your portfolio or are you anticipating will be in your cloud portfolio, and what are your toughest challenges in building your business. And as soon as you input your answers, you'll instantly see the results of other people just like you and what their answers are. And so you can compare yourself to others. The qualitative side of this is we're doing an in-depth look at CSPs from some of the most highly rated and successful CSP businesses in the industry. There's a bunch of public sources where we can look at who's done this and who's successful. And we're going to reveal a strategic analysis of what is the success formula that other CSPs have followed. And so if you take this survey, we're going to share the results of that qualitative analysis with you at no cost as well. And then, of course, if you want to talk to us at MSP Excellence about joining our program, we would love to have you join. And information about that is at our website as well at mspexcellence.com. Or feel free to drop us an email, Todd Hussey and myself, Dave Zwicker, at MSP Excellence. You can reach both of us just at info@mspexcellence.com. Ask a question offline about the session today, or ask for more information about our program, or whatever's on your mind. We'd love to engage with people in the reseller and service provider community. It enriches our knowledge about how to help folks make the most successful business possible. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions from the group about anything that we've talked about today. And if so, you can plug them right into the question box that you see on the control panel. And while I'm waiting to see if there's a question or two that comes in, I'll also just describe a little bit more about the two initiatives that I just talked about. And this first on the checklist will take you through a readiness assessment for your business. Once you fill that out, there's a place at the end of that survey where you can put in your contact information optionally. And if you put your contact information in there and ask us to, we'll get a hold of you and we'll get on the phone with you and talk through your readiness assessment, again, at no charge, and give you a free hour of consulting so that you can get our opinion of what you might want to consider next to follow a path from building a highly successful business around Google Apps. And then the second part of the survey is applying those things in using a formula that the most successful CSPs have followed. Okay, we have a couple of quick questions today. I'll just address them quickly. First is, do we see Google Apps scripts playing a role in a successful Google Apps business, and if so, how? Very good question, and an interesting question. In fact, as it turns out, I mentioned we have weekly virtual peer group sessions as part of our program. This was the very first session that we held, and we had an expert from Google come on and present to us how Google Apps resellers can use the scripting functionality to customize the way Google Apps works, to automate workflows, and to make Google Apps tuned and specific to a given customer set, and how that can create more revenue value for them as a Google Apps reseller. So the answer to that question is yes. Google Apps scripting can play a great role because automating workflow and business processes for customers is incredibly valuable. In fact, we had a Google Apps reseller who's a member of our program talk about how they sell and how they go to market and what kind of customer solutions they bring to market. And fundamental to their value proposition is automating, is first understanding the manual business processes that the customer is using in their business today, and looking for ways to automate them with Google Apps, and automating them with scripting, and integrating Google Apps with other complementary apps to solve business problems. And they charge handsomely for that, both in terms of one-time revenue and recurring revenue. So I should also add that when we do have these sessions, like the two I just described, we record them. And there's a video library of all these sessions up on a Google site that we create. The Google site contains all the blueprints and all the recorded VPG sessions. It's also home to 4 different Google groups that act as discussion forums for members to talk to each other and have a conversation outside of the weekly sessions. And the 4 groups are, there's a business track for how to talk about growing the business, pricing strategies, etc., hiring strategies, go-to-market strategies. There's another technology track where partners share their thoughts and insights about which technologies to pick and which ones have been most successful in their business as they've taken them to market. A third track is a track on sales and marketing, where we facilitate discussions or members talk to each other about sales ideas that work, objections that they have received and how they handle them, and marketing and lead gen programs that have been effective for them. And then a fourth track is an educational track where we simply use a session to go through one of the blueprints, and we go soup to nuts on the best way to use the blueprint. We record that, we take questions about it, and we post all of that interaction and the conversation that follows in the discussion forum in the educational track. So, so that's a little bit about that. There's a question about what the price of our program is. The program is just under $2,000 for an annual subscription, $19.95. That equates to about $166 a month, and that includes all of the blueprints and membership in the VPG, the virtual peer group um, community that we've established, and invitations to our weekly sessions. And then anytime you want to hop on the phone with Todd and I to ask a question about how to use the materials, we're available. So that's a little bit about the pricing of the CSP program itself. Let's see if we have any other questions out there. Is there a recommended strategy for transforming from a project or consulting model to a MSP or recurring revenue model? Yeah, that's a good question as well. Just yesterday, in yesterday's VPG session, we presented something out of one of the blueprints, which is a 3-year model for how you can look at how your one-time and recurring revenue streams mix together over a 3-year time horizon based on your assumptions about average customer size and average deal value. And something that the model shows graphically is that it's very tough to start right off the bat with a pure recurring revenue model, because what you're doing is you're taking a very high value deal, a deal that might be worth, instead of that $12,000 one-time consulting fee for a 25 user company, and let's say that you turn that into let's see, what did we say? $15,000 a year times 3 years. Let's say we turn that into a $45,000 business, but when you divide that by 36 months, it's $1,250 a month. So now what you've done is you've taken a one-time business of, best case, $12,000, and you've turned it into $1,200 a month. So there's a cash flow challenge there, that even though the revenue value of that long-term multi-year recurring revenue contract that grows to 45 grand is in month one only $1,250 versus the one-time model month one could be $12,000. So how do you reconcile that cash flow crunch? And what the model shows is there's an interesting way to start with a model that is based on one-time revenues up front in the early months, or maybe year and a half. And then the model tells you how to shift to a recurring revenue model based on cash flow to a monthly recurring revenue approach. And it kind of allows you to have the best of both worlds. When to start off and optimize on one-time project consulting fees to generate cash for the business and get up and running and establish customers, and begin to ease in recurring revenue to where you can shift to a model that's truly optimized on monthly recurring revenue, and de-emphasizing the one-time so you can be more competitive, win more deals, and charge more on a monthly basis to create that long-term recurring revenue value. So that's not only a model that's very comprehensive and tells you a lot, but it's a great example of why it's important to get on the phone or in a web conference and talk about it. Talk about it with partners, talk about it with us, play what-if games and see how different scenarios play out. And so that was yesterday's VPG meeting. So a variety of questions like the ones we've just talked about today are the kinds of questions we take up in our VPG sessions. I think that's all the questions we have for right now, and we're close to the hour, so this is a good time to close. I'd like to thank everybody for joining our session today. Don't hesitate to visit our site and have a look at the checklist if you want to do a readiness assessment of your business and fill out our survey to see how your business compares to other IT service providers. And then, of course, drop us a line. If you have a question about the program, if you'd like a copy of the presentation, we'd be glad to send those things back out to you. Again, thanks for attending today, Have a great day, and we hope to talk to you all soon.